we ask ourselves questions like, who's going to listen to me? We're going to ask ourselves like, I don't know enough about that. We're going to ask ourselves, what if someone finds out that I've only been doing this for a year or two? A number of questions that you've thought of. Who's going to come on my podcast?
Most hosts never achieve the results they hoped for. They're falling short on listenership and monetization, meaning their message isn't being heard and their show ends up costing them money. This podcast was created to help you grow your listenership and make money while you're at it. Get ready to take notes. Here's your host, Adam Adams.
What's up, podcaster? It's your host, Adam A. Adams. And today we're talking about imposter syndrome. And there's a new way of helping to get through imposter syndrome. So I guess we should define imposter syndrome in the first place. What does it mean? It means that sometimes we just aren't completely sure of ourselves. We're not sure if we're old enough or if we're too old. We're not sure if we're black enough or white enough or brown enough, or we're not sure if we have enough hands or whatever. It doesn't matter your race, your color, your creed, how many limbs you have, your sexual preference. You are worthy. And in this episode, I want to talk about imposter syndrome, that every freaking body suffers with it, no matter who you are or where you come from. Now, especially when you start a new business, and especially when you start a new thought leadership platform. As you're writing a book, as you're starting a podcast or a YouTube channel, you're going to experience this thing called imposter syndrome a lot. And it kind of holds us back. We ask ourselves questions like, who's going to listen to me? We're going to ask ourselves like, I don't know enough about that. We're going to ask ourselves, what if someone finds out that I've only been doing this for a year or two? A number of questions that you've thought of. Who's going to come on my podcast? I don't even have a show yet, so I have nothing to show for. And this imposter syndrome tends to hold people back. It tends to make people not be able to accomplish what they want to accomplish. And so in this episode, like I mentioned, I'm going to share just a new way, something that I just heard today, of getting through imposter syndrome. And it was the mindset around what imposter syndrome even means. So hear me out a little bit. On one end, you could be saying to yourself, I don't know enough about this. I'm still learning. I've got a coach. I pay somebody. What if people don't want to trust me because I only started? All these things. And you might basically say, I'm not good enough. That's really the words that come out when you're having imposter syndrome is, I'm not good enough, or I'm not sure if I'm worthy. I'm not sure if I know enough. Basically, I'm not good enough. I don't know. And how to avoid this? One thing is just to know that everybody suffers through this. I go through this almost every time I push record. I understand that there are people that have more listeners, more downloads, more ratings, more reviews, more podcast episodes. They've been doing it longer. They've taught more people than I have. And I have to live with that. I have to be okay with that. I might not be the best at every part, but I'm the best at some of the parts. I don't know anybody who can do some of the parts as well as I can. And you've got to be thinking that too. I might not be the best at everything. Say it with me. I might not be the best at everything. Some of the parts I'm novice at. Some of the parts I'm just learning. Some of the parts I'm mediocre. I can do it. Some of the parts I'm not very good. It's not my skill set. But say this with me too. There's other parts where I'm remarkable. I really stand out. I do something different than anyone. I have a different take on this. It's unique. And in a way, it can be better. Think of it like that. So you would go in and you would just understand, hey, everybody suffers through this. We've all got pros. We've all got cons. Okay. Now, the part that I told you was new is to think through imposter syndrome like this. You first take a step back and you say to yourself, you can change your relationship with imposter syndrome just by the way that you look at what imposter syndrome is and what it does. So think of it like this. Instead of saying all those things we mentioned just before, it's holding me back, I'm not good enough, I'm not sure if I'm good enough. Instead of saying stuff like that, say that this imposter syndrome is here for my benefit. Okay. You don't want to avoid imposter syndrome. You don't want to stay away from imposter syndrome. What you truly want to do is embrace it and take the good out of it. Because imposter syndrome is, in a way, just telling you to hone in on your craft. In a way, imposter syndrome is telling you to go all in on this, to focus, to continue to learn and to continue to grow. Because you're going to get in front of stages. You're going to get on other people's podcasts. You're going to be behind your own microphone. You're going to be writing your own book. You're going to be starting your own business. And you can either let the imposter syndrome tell you you're bad, you should stop because you don't know everything, or you can let your imposter syndrome tell you that you can still hone in on your craft. You can still learn more about that subject. You can still master it. You can continue to grow every day. And that's what I want you to be thinking of. Since Adam Adams goes through imposter syndrome just about every time I push the record button, I know that I'm not alone. I want you to be thinking, how can this imposter syndrome help me be better at my business, at my podcast, at my book? And I will see you on the next episode. Oh, hey, because 3 of my clients came to me recently looking to find a way to have their podcast make them money instead of cost them money, we put together a resource for some of our clients, and I want to give it to you as well. It's something that did actually seem to help because one of them is now making $2,600 a month. Another one's $4,500 a month. And the third is making between $5,000 and $10,000 each month. And so it's been a resource that's been incredibly valuable to them. It's our sponsor sheet template. It's a template of a sponsor sheet, and it gives you something that you can hand to potential sponsors and hopefully also be making $2,600, $4,500, or between $5,000 and $10,000 regularly each month with your podcast. So this has been a contributing factor to helping all 3 of those clients turn their podcast into an additional income stream for them. And the way that you can find it is just going to our website, growyourshow.com, but put in /templates, growyourshow.com/templates. And then you can actually download that template and others that could be valuable to your podcasting experience. I'll see you on the next episode.